I want to share with you something that I feel is fundamental to the success of your child's learning and their enjoyment of it. In the 1970s, there was a lot of exploration on how people learn. Obviously, we intake the majority of information from our senses. And visual, auditory, and kinesthetic or movement or tactile or how we feel are the ones that would be the most applicable to learning. Of course, we take things in, through our sense of smell and taste, but that is not the predominant amount of information that we would have to have access to. So anyway, it was also found, and I thought this was very interesting, that those who teach often teach with their preferred learning modality. So as homeschool parents, would it be important to you to know, number one, how you learn best so that you can access that information in order to teach your children, and number two, to know how they learn best so that you can help them to have the most successful learning experience possible. And be aware that in many cases, unless you are very intentional about it, you will teach them in the learning style that you learn best. And so I think it's important to know what our children's learning styles are so that we can give them the best educational experience possible in meeting their needs. Now, it was found that while most of us can learn from a variety of different ways, 27% of people need to have things presented in their particular learning modality in order to get it, to be able to remember it, to be able to make sense of it. So there's basically the three different types. There's the visual. Those are learners that love to read, not necessarily just love to read, but things that are visual or things that attract them, that keep their attention, that help them to retain. So things like maps, graphs, pictures, any kind of different visual aids, even mind maps. Those are the kind of things that visual learners are attracted to and helped by. Auditory, those that listen best and learn through listening. This could be ear reading books versus eye reading. In other words, listening to audiobooks. This could be through discussions, through activities that involve a lot of music or songs, different audio tracks. And then, of course, there's the kinesthetic learners. And these learners love the touch. They love activities that engage them in being able to do experiments, move. That's just part of how they learn, and they learn best. So what they found is, again, like I said, 27% of learners have a preferred modality that if they do not have something presented in this way, then they have a difficult time learning. My son Bobby was one of these, and this is why I became so passionate about this. He had a horrible time learning his timetables. We did everything we could think of. Of course, we would rehearse them at the dinner table. I had him write them out. We made up stories about them. We'd sing songs and rhymes, everything we could think of to help him learn his timetables. And for all of our effort, it just seemed that it wasn't happening. He couldn't remember them. So one time, just kind of as an inspiration, I guess, we were getting ready to go on a bike ride. And I said, Bob, on this bike ride, for every rotation of the wheel, let's go ahead and do part of the problem. So like 2 times 2 is 4. So on our way out to the pond, we went ahead and did the times tables that way. On the way back, I would give him the problem, and he would give me the answer. So for the first time, he was actually giving me the answer to these timetables, and I thought, wow, I think we're really on to something. And sure enough, we noticed that if he needed to memorize anything, he needed to be moving. He needed to be jumping on a trampoline or jumping with a jump rope or riding a bike or even tapping on his arm. Those things were just crucial for him to be able to learn. And so I realized that there really is something to this. He became an avid learner, an avid reader, as he was able to engage in things in a different way than we had before. And so now as a teacher, I find that number one, it's important to know, not just that I'm a visual learner, but it's important for me to go ahead and do activities for each different type of learning so that I'll reach the needs of every and all of my students. It's also important that they have a successful experience in learning, that they have fun, that they enjoy what they're doing. And that happens most often when they're learning in a way that's best suited to them and easiest for them.